This is a review of a high school pitcher's pitching mechanics. This athlete's been coming to the Powercore 360 Arm Care Core Strength and Velo program 3 times a week for a total of about 13 weeks since last October. In this program, he's worked really hard using the Powercore 360 Advanced Training System. I should also note that 9 weeks into the program, just before Christmas break, he started on an off-day baseball-specific strengthening program as well. What you see on the screen on the left side is his before from October. These are his mechanics, so we're going to go through that and kind of talk about what we see. The first thing we look at when we teach our pitchers is we want that back foot squared up with the rubber to anchor nicely into the ground to kind of create that linear drive. His right foot's turned out, and that's something we've been working on. As he goes up into his wind-up, and as he starts to go forward, one of the first things we look for is triple extension from the leg. And we get triple extension, but we get it really out of sequence. And basically, he just kind of falls and straightens his leg versus really pushing off the ground, using ground reaction forces to create some linear drive forward. Next thing we're looking at is as he starts his motion, and we look at the arm motion, we see this inverted W. And so this is something we really wanted to work on and change with him for injury prevention concerns. As we go forward into this and we look at his front side leg as it comes down, the first thing we notice is number one, he comes down with heel strike. And then as his heel comes down, we watch the front leg. You just see the front knee kind of continue to move forward. It's not a firm front leg, and so basically that's going to limit his hip speed, hip turn, hip rotational speed. It's just too soft on the front side. When that front foot hits, what we're looking for is that his upper body would have a slightly backwards spine angle. His upper body, when that front foot hits, you can see is well in front of a vertical line. So he's early, if you would, with his upper body, and you can see how late his hand and arm is. He's actually way far forward before the hand ever comes up into the slot there. So upper body's early, hand is really late. And then as we watch, because of that really soft front side, as we watch his throw and his release and his follow through, it's just there's no stability, no control. It's just kind of a hot mess there. If we look at the right side, this was from 2 days ago, January 16th, and we start to look at his mechanics. First thing we look at is that back foot's nice and square with the rubber. He goes up into his stretch here, and we start to go down, and first thing we're starting to look for is that triple extension off that back leg. So we're actually starting to get some nice linear drive, pushing off the rubber and actually going somewhere with that stride foot with the front foot. When that front foot comes down, one of the first things you'll notice is now before, instead of being on the left where he came down and he had a heel strike coming down, we're actually coming down on the midfoot or the ball of the foot, so much more stable position. When we look at the arms on the right side compared to the left side, on the left side there's our inverted W. On the right side, this is all cleaned up. So he now actually gets a really nice scapular load. His scap's sucked down against his rib cage. His shoulders are in a really good position to create and, more importantly, tolerate increased torque. Because both scaps fire, we get a nice open chest. We get a good stretch on the pecs. We get the chest open, and we can create a better whip and better arm action. If we look back down at the lower half, when that front foot hits and we watch the front knee, that front knee now stiffens up, right? And we get a firm front leg versus on the left side, that foot hits and it's just kind of mush with his knee coming forward. And once again, it slows that hip rotation down, and it's going to slow arm velocity down on the left side. On the right side, as he's improved, that front foot comes down, there's much more stability and control in the front leg, and that creates much faster, earlier hip rotation. So the sequence is so much better with his lower half and creates now more arm velocity just due to the hip turn. Sequentially on the left side, what you can see here is when that left foot comes down, there's really no hip and shoulder separation whatsoever. His whole body at best turns, his hips and shoulders come through at the same time, and I would suggest to you that his shoulders are racing past the turn of his hips. So there's just very little hip torque or hip rotation happening on the left side. On the right side, we're doing a much better job because of that front leg being firm, getting faster hip turn, and we're starting to get some hip and shoulder separation here. Nice sequencing that the hips going first, Here comes the shoulders as a result of the hips turning, pulling the shoulders through, and now we've got nice external rotation with stability and control. Body's in a much better position, timing's better, and of course we create this nice hip, shoulder, arm whip with a nice release point there. Follow through is much better, much more stable, much more under control. So he's made great improvements. Velocity-wise, when he came in October, he was throwing mid to low 60s. He's just below the 80s now, so he's went up about 10 miles an hour. But more importantly, and first and foremost, his mechanics have cleaned up. And so we didn't want to increase velocity on bad mechanics. We've tried to clean up the mechanics, and now really trying to build velocity on top of that. Strength-wise, the strength and stability of his shoulders, his rotation of his T-spine, and being able to integrate stability on his shoulders, external rotation, internal rotation as the T-spine or torso and shoulders turn, if you would, has become really strong. They're really strong. Both external rotation, internal rotation is really strong. And then his ability to generate power in a really nice sequential or biomechanical fashion has improved dramatically. So he's now able, when we do our banded work on the hip and torso harness, then we throw med balls with that, so we're really working on sequencing and rotation. Man, he's just become really strong with that, which is dramatically different from where he started.